This is the beginning of part 2 of the podcast, where we are going to figure out how to take this same data and make a box and whisker plot. So normally when we plot things, we go to y equals. And that's where we enter equations, like equations for lines, or could be anything, quadratics. Instead, what we want are statistics plots, okay? Which is in blue right above that button, y equals. So in order to get to that, we have to hit second, y equals. And now we see a list of stat plots. Okay? And again, we see the arrow. So there are more at the bottom of the screen. We only need one right now. We might as well use the first one, number 1. Hit enter to get into the menu where we change things about this first plot. First thing we need to do is turn it on. So let's hit enter, and on is highlighted now. Second thing we need to do is go down to the type option. There are 6 different options. The one we want is in the middle of the bottom row, which is the box and whisker plot. If I hit enter, okay, that'll select that type. Now we need to go down and change 2 more things. The X list, the data that we're going to put on the x-axis. We've got our data in list 1. So let's change that to list 1 by hitting second 1 for L1. Then we need to change the frequency also. Right now it's got a list in there, which we'll do later. For right now we're just going to make that 1. And what that means is that every data point shows up once, has a frequency of 1. And here I had the alpha on, so it used a Y. I'm going to turn alpha off and press 1. Okay. Let me hit enter, and let's take a look at the graph. So that looks like part of a box and whisker graph, but not the whole thing. What we need to do is change the window. Right now it's the standard window, which goes from -10 to 10 on the x-axis, as well as the y-axis from -10 to 10. But our data went all the way up to 19, so we need to change this window. And in the same way, we're wasting a lot of space over here. We don't have any negative numbers, so these 3 quadrants aren't very useful. So let's go to the window, and instead of -10 to 10, let's start at 0, again, because there were no negative numbers. And we went up to 19. Let's go to 20 just to give us a little extra space. Okay? And rather than making a mark every 1, I don't know, how about every 2? Just so the screen doesn't get too cluttered. On the y-axis, there's really nothing on the y-axis. There's just this one dimension or one variable of data. So we can just make that 0 to 1. Let's go back to the graph. That looks much better. We can see the whole box and all the whiskers. If we want to see some of those same 5 numbers of the 5-number summary that we found in one variable statistics, you can hit trace, and you'll see the cursor pop up there that starts at the median, which is 13, okay, which we saw before. If you hit left, you'll go down to the first quartile, 8, down to the minimum, 2, moving right again, third quartile, 17, and maximum, 19. So that's the end of part 2 of the podcast.